Um, you all agree on so many basic assumptions. Where the differences lie, it seems to me, is in how we ought to treat those who think so differently from us. And so my question to you is, given that there have been ways in which propaganda machines have been set up in the past to convert large groups of people, and we've known how to do that effectively in certain parts of the world and not as well in others, is there something about the scientific agenda that sort of handicaps us in a particular way? In other words, if the Warren Buffett, Bill Gates Foundation were to give you the $30 billion that is now only half their endowment, what would you want to do with it to bring about change in the manner in which you see it appropriate?
Let me give you one quick answer. I mean, I spend a lot of time in the public arena now, and scientists are particularly handicapped because you don't deal with lies very easily. The amazing Randy did a wonderful example of, he had two assistants who he got to go into a ESP testing laboratory, and he said, fool them. And if anyone ever asks you if you're cheating, say, yeah, I'm cheating. And, of course, the study came up with two wonderful examples of people at ESP. And the reason the scientists never, you presume that there's an honest discussion. And in the public domain, in the domain of public relations and politics, which is what a lot of this is involved with, vitally, you can't just assume that the truth is going to win out. You can't just assume, when I pick up a physics journal, Physical Review, I say, that's garbage, that's garbage, that's garbage. And a lot of it's garbage, but I don't spend my time writing articles saying it's garbage because I know it's going to fall by the wayside. But in the public domain, a lot of the garbage isn't going to fall by the wayside. You have to actively create a public relations campaign. You have to think about sound bites, and you have to become an evangelist. And that's very difficult, I think, for much of the scientific community to do. It's not in their nature. And so I think there are inherent handicaps to combating certain well-funded groups whose existence is based on public relations and manipulating the truth.
Well, if I had half the $30 billion, I would call the United States every week from my island and check in with the Skeptic Society and see how they're doing there. And although it's true, Neil, we can't talk people out of their religious beliefs any more than we can talk them out of being conservative or liberal or any belief system they're behaviorally committed to. But we can offer something else and let them come to it in their own good time. I thought of an analogy of this just a couple of days ago in the, I think it was in the LA Times calendar section of one of the Variety movie papers. They were running ads for all the awards for the upcoming film festivals, and every one of them at the top says, "For your consideration." And then there's the ad for the film and all the good things about the film. So in a way, all the books that we write and articles and so on, in a way it's saying, for your consideration. Here, think about this. Richard's idea of consciousness raising, it's not that we're going to convert people, but here's an alternative. Try it on. Sometimes I'll say, just try being an atheist for an hour and see how it goes. And you can always, back off or try it for a day or something like that, and just see it how it goes. You can't force it to happen, but it can happen if there's something available. So our job is just to make it available, something appealing.
Okay, there's one question here from Patricia Churchson, who's Chair of Philosophy at UCSD.
Hi, I want to follow up Marja Banerjee's point, because I think that you're not being imaginative enough in your response. Marja's suggestion is not that you get the scientists to actually do this PR campaign, but that you hire a PR firm and you say, look, what we want to do is make available to the public the kind of story that Neil told. And do it in a way that's persuasive. You guys are the ones who are supposed to be in the business of persuading people. Get the sound bites right, get the timing right, hit the right television shows. Bill Gates has provided $30 million to do this. We'll start you on $10 million. Let's go. But I don't think that what you really want to do is get the scientists to sort of timidly come out and say, well, you really want to think about how that we're not that great at it, most of us. So give the job to people who know how to do it. I mean, give it to professionals. Thank you. I mean, if it's an economic matter, and I think that was one of the brilliant parts of Neil's talk, if it's an economic matter, I mean, there's a lot of people who care about the economic future of this country. So if it's an economic matter, get the PR company onto it.
As my wife often reminds me, most people don't give a hoot. Science. I mean, I think it's nice if someone gave us $30 billion, but I don't think. TV stations march with their feet. I and other people like to try and get things, science on TV and other things. And the reason they're not on hold on a second, they're not on ABC and NBC and CBS is, for the most part, people figure there's not a lot of money to be made and it would be nice to try and convince them otherwise. But for the moment, I think it's very difficult to try and get a lot of money on PR on science, because it's not perceived by those people who are willing to spend the money as being a way to make money.
Sorry, I don't mean to be tedious, but if I may just follow that up. Neil's point was that having a culture of ignorance as opposed to a culture of discovery is in the long run bad for economics. That's the point. And I think if that point can be got across in a way that's appealing, so I'm not necessarily talking about getting people to be more scientifically literate. I'm talking about getting them to see that science is in their economic interest.
I spoke at the American Enterprise Institute, which is as conservative as it gets, because they recognize that this is indeed bad for the economy. But I think there are large-scale reasons why they don't particularly care if there's a large number of uneducated people.
I actually think that the presence of certain people in this room shows that some scientists and philosophers are actually pretty good communicators. So I'm delighted to have a chance to introduce Scott Atran. You had a question?
Okay, could you just say who you are? Scott Atran from the National Center for Scientific Research in Paris. There seems to be a conflation of two problems. The first is keeping non-scientific thoughts, irrational thoughts, out of science. Noble enterprise. The second is introducing science as a rational way of doing ethics and politics. Is there the slightest historical evidence whatsoever that the involvement of science in politics or ethics has done anything or could do anything to improve the human condition?
I don't think anyone here has suggested that. Your remark seems irrelevant to what's been said.
There's no suggestion that...
No one has suggested that science provides a way of being more ethical or
that it engages in politics. It tells suicide bombers, for example, that they're...
Well, it may remove motivations for bad behavior, but it itself doesn't provide a moral... I mean, science doesn't provide a moral standard. It has nothing to do with that. It may provide a way of puncturing other vicious moral standards.
Well, except as a subset of Enlightenment values of reason, of which science is a part. Certainly there, in the Jeffersonian sense, of course we want to apply reason to political decisions. Absolutely. So I think there it's relevant.
I don't think you shouldn't construe science narrowly in this sense, because the way I look at it is when the stakes are high, we have a choice between conversation and violence. Maybe both interpersonally and at the level of nations, we have a choice between conversation and war, essentially. And what I see religious faith doing, what dogma does intrinsically, and religious dogma especially, is it stops the conversation. I mean, dogma are those beliefs that you have taken off the table, that are no longer there to be revised through new evidence and new argument. And these are the dogmas, these are the beliefs around which people are making their strongest claims about us, them, in-group, out-group, sort of tribalism. And so I think the only thing that guarantees that our collaboration with one another is truly open-ended is a willingness to have our beliefs about the world and our behavior revised through conversation, and that is science broadly construed.
So you are advocating the introduction of reason and argument into